Hello and welcome. Uh, this is us playing Girl by Moonlight in a Maze of Dreams again. My name is Andrew. My pronouns are they and them, and I am joined by Morgan. Is this way?
Sorry, I thought you were going to say more about me. I was like, yeah, you got
No,
this.
sorry. I'm
I'm
Just
Morgan.
you.
Just me. All right, got this. My name's Morgan. I go by they, them, and she, her pronouns. And I play Laurel Lane, who is the Unlikely Hero Playbook.
and then down here is Jess.
Hello, it's a me. I am Jess. I go by Burst of Hope on Twitter. I use they, them pronouns. And I am playing Soul, who is a time traveler.
And lastly, Jory.
Hello, I'm Jory. I use she or they pronouns, and I am playing Spec, who is the Instagram star of this fucked up world that we live in.
Yeah, chief influencer. And so last time we left off, we were just doing downtime stuff. We saw the characters taking in a movie, but as an opportunity for Spec to kind of like spill his guts about all the stuff that was getting him down. We also saw Soul looking into... It was Soul, right? That looked into the... No, sorry. It was Laurel who was searching around online, looking at people's like dream journals and stuff like that, and inadvertently stumbled on her grandmother's secret dream journaling account, and read about the vistas and the like cozy community kind of space that she had built in her mind to take care of all the people she cared about. And what did Saul get up to? I am struggling to remember.
One of my downtime scenes, I took Laurel aside. We talked about Grandma.
Right. Because in Obligation, you had been forced to kind of spy on Laurel's gran.
Just a little bit. Found out some things about her. She's super cool with the games and stuff. Spoofing. I think I only did one downtime session, but now can't remember.
Yeah, everyone did one downtime action, so we're all still owed another. And I know that Jory, you mentioned wanting to have a scene where Spec went into the dream and did some investigation.
Yes.
So I was wondering if we could start with that today.
Hell yeah, let's pop in. Pardon me as I crunch an almond. So we had a little movie night prompted by me having to endorse a shitty rom-com that I hated. So we watched like a real tragic ass love story. And then I got just more upset. Who would have thought?
It was not the catharsis you had hoped for.
Maybe it was, but it didn't it didn't make me happy. It made me be like, ugh, my own tragedy. Why is love this way? So, I'm frustrated and sad, and I think I shared with Laurel that I feel like I'm mad that it feels like nobody sees me, like really sees me, except for my forbidden love, Plena, who has transcended into the dream world. So I think this is late night after we have gone our separate ways after our movie watching, and I'm gonna try to find Plena in the dream there, which will be an investigation of sorts.
Yeah, so you go to bed, you sleep, and at night, is this something that you're doing very consciously and deliberately, or do you just kind of end up looking for them, do you think?
Good question. In the past, we've talked about access or transversing the dream world through kind of screens and mirrors and things. Oh, can you hear that?
Yeah.
Sorry. It's okay. We have one room.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So yeah, like we can move through the dream using like screens and other like
mirror-like
windows,
surfaces.
mirrors, those kinds of surfaces. Yeah, that y'all are able to detect the ones that work. But
is it also possible to slip into the dream world? I mean, obviously you can just dream, and I kind of like that idea that perhaps I went to bed upset and then I dreamed, and because of my connection, I'm aware when I'm having this kind of dream, when I'm in the dream world rather than just a regular dream, and perhaps I'm more lucid than the average person.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like hard for y'all to just dream now. Like you're always kind of conscious of what's going on in there. But yeah, so you just like make your way to Plena's dream, which is a place that you're probably very familiar with now. And they're not always there, I think. Like they travel around a fair bit, and because this is their whole world now. They live in the dream. So you go to the kind of place that they usually are, and I don't think they're here at the moment. But their dream is... I mean, it feels very lonely with them not in it, and it's a little bit dim, like someone turned the lights down or something. Usually it's very bright and sunny with lots of... I think it's like a underground space that is also somehow brightly lit and lit by the sun in this very surreal way, and that there's like
a cavernous garden.
Yeah, exactly, with like a big this like stream running through it, so there's always the sound of water, and the air is kind of misty and has that like coolness to it, and there are all the kind of smells of the plants and the sounds of the water, and the usual warm light is absent with Plana not there, and it's a little more dim and contemplative of a space. And you know that you're welcome here, even when they're not around, but it is still a little bit, like you're in someone else's space, very, very much. So, yeah, what do you do in there? I think there's like to add a little more detail to the scene, there's like a little, like a trunk that they pull, things out of that they need, like clothes or, pretty much anything they want. A table, which is kind of like a little workspace, but also they'll like serve tea there when you come and visit, that kind of thing. And these are all, very familiar objects from like an old apartment that they had and like, various times in their life. And you've heard the kind of stories that inform these particular choices. And it's all very personal to Luce. Like there are two chairs and they aren't the same. They don't match. One from like one time and one from another, that kind of thing. Everything's a little bit quirky that way.
So I think I've carried my emotions into this dream, so I'm kind of upset and frustrated, and I'm willing to say that I'm a bit of an asshole. I feel like this position as influencer is something that I've more or less known was coming or was groomed for, and so I am the center of my own universe to a big degree. And so my frustration is that I don't feel seen, and so I am going to rifle through Plena's stuff to try to find something that makes me feel seen, that makes me feel like they love me and they understand me. So
right, because they're not here to do that and give you that affirmation themselves, so you need to...
and I deserve it.
Of course, and that's what you came here for.
Yeah.
Great.
So this would be the equivalent of like going through someone's cell phone, but I don't think that that's like a thing that exists here.
No, not quite. So yeah, do you like bust open their trunk of things and go digging around?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna rifle through whatever there is until I find something that makes me feel better. So I think I'd probably start with the trunk and then kind of go through the workspace if I don't find what I want.
So yeah, like as you walk over to the little place that is furnished, there's like this thing that happens with the space where it like reconfigures itself based on the thing you're about to do, and so suddenly there's like a shelf with more things on it, like the space modifies itself to be more workable and usable. And so there are various little like curios, and there's like a picture and some books and these kinds of things on the shelf. the picture isn't of you. You notice straight away, which maybe pisses you off a little bit, but it's of like.
Who is this?
It's like some family member of theirs. It's like the person that raised them. I don't know if it's like
Fine.
their actual like parent as such, but the person that raised them. And yeah, so you go digging through the trunk, and I think you find a lot of like, there are clothes, there's a tea set, there's also a box of papers, which you open and you're rifling through, and a lot of them are like letters that aren't necessarily like, each letter isn't like a literal letter that they received or whatever. Each one is like a conversation or a memory of an exchange or these kinds of things. They're a little more abstract than that, but they appear as these letters. And there's a bundle. There's a bundle that is interactions with you. That is like tied together with a ribbon or something. They're all like rolled up. And next to it, there's another bundle that looks very similar, which you would assume to be relations with someone else. You're welcome to grab whichever you like. No judgment.
I think... So here's the thing. I think that I go through the ones with me, and I think I take the ones that are about somebody else, and I steal them.
Oh. So you put back the ones that are about you, and you've kept these other ones. You like steal them from the space.
Yeah.
Great. Well, why don't you roll the dice, and then we'll do a little back and forth with some gather info questions to establish the contents of these letters and what's interesting about them.
Great.
If that sounds good.
And I just roll anything?
An action that you think is reflective of what you're doing.
Oh. This might be perceive. Does that feel accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can definitely work. You're just looking through them and reading them, not trying to like put them up on the conspiracy board and connect them with string and all this kind of stuff, right? So it can be fine to just like take them in and read them and see
Great.
what this looks like on the surface.
Great.
And yeah, position and effect don't really matter. Okay, you get a 1. Great. So let me just get to the right place here. So that is going to advance the investigation by 2 points, which I'll mark on the sheet here. So that's good. That fills the first tier, which is all we really need to do at the moment. And I'm just going to bring us over here. So, yeah, you start digging through the letters that are all associated with this other person. And I think there is a little like so the way this looks is like everything's rolled up and then there's a string tied around it or like a ribbon, and the piece of paper on the outside has a name on it, like the other one had your name. This one I think has RIP written on it in big, like,
God damn it, RIP.
In like ridiculous gothic lettering, like it's really over the top. Which says a lot about, I think, how Plana thinks about RIP. That they think RIP is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, so you like open this thing and you've heard of RIP. You've heard Plana mention it before, and like it's a whole thing. And so some of these are like photos of some of RIP's installations. And as a reminder to everyone, RIP is a macabre post-humanist and installation artist. Part of the like weird collective that Plana was involved in, and perhaps is still involved in. So yeah, it's mostly photos and like memories of specific places, but there are definitely like conversations that are shown as like transcriptions, or when you look at them, they look like, like instant messaging back and forth, that kind of thing. But yeah, why don't you go ahead and ask me a question? and I will give you a useful answer.
Okay. These are the questions, my gather information questions.
Mm-hmm.
What does Rip really want?
And so I think we see this through, like, various of these conversations. There's like not like an almost argument between Plena and Rip, where Plena is advocating for like crossing over and existing only in the dream, and like that this is like the right way to do things. And I think the conversation like picks up midway. You don't have the full context for it, but this is the part that's really important to Plena that they remember. And Rip just talks about like needing to, there's less of like fiery rhetoric around like liberating people or smashing barriers. There is also a lot of talk of like how the, like being able to dream or being able to have these ideas, it only matters if they can be made concrete and real. Rip doesn't view the dream space as being a real thing the way that Plena does. So these are like they're clearly two philosophers with very opposite perspectives on this particular issue or topic. And the pseudo argument, I think, ends with Rip telling Plena that they should just like go and stay there if that's how they really feel, and like that they will soon find it to be a hollow or empty experience because none of it is real. Yeah, and I think behind that there's a flyer for one of Rip's installations that's called like, and these are like, very like zine style, like photocopied little paper flyers. And the installation is just called like Tear Down the World. It's very heavy-handed. Rip is not a subtle artist. And their whole thing is around like, making these like sort of like reality breaching installations that people can go into. And so this particular event, I think it probably happened like a couple days ago or whatever, and it half reads like an advert half reads like a band poster or whatever for a show, but also like a manifesto. There's lots of like attempts to convince people of a certain set of ideas in it that are reflective of Rip's ideology, just to give a sense of like what they're all about. So yeah, you find all this stuff. Holding these memories or these like letters and things in Plena's dream, I think you feel sad reading them, even though like there's like an external emotion of sadness that washes over you as you're reading them that like is part of the things themselves. And you are welcome to ask me a follow-up question that could just be whatever.
Follow-up meaning it should be about this or like
truly
open?
About that particular notion.
Is Rip how popular is Rip's work?
Is Rip a threat to me? I think growing lately, probably. Like, I think Rip used to be really obscure and like people didn't know about it. But that there's kind of been like a void that Plena has left that Rip has been quick to fill. Rip has kind of emerged from Plena's shadow and taken on a lot of their fan base because Plena has stopped producing art. You know,
Right.
They're not doing anything new, so people have moved on.
Cool.
So, having read these, do you like exit Plena's dream carrying them?
I think I leave them. I would have stolen them if they made me more angry, but I feel like yeah, I didn't really get what I wanted or what I expected, but I don't need to take them away. Can I also read the ones about me?
Sure. Do you want to get real sad?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go into a ton of detail. They're not like useful for this action of investigating, but certainly there is kind of all the highlights of the two of you like getting to know each other, and yeah, I think there are a lot more of these from early in your relationship rather than like more recent ones. Which implies that there's kind of more emotional weight on the early days for Plena. And I think the most recent exchange between the two of you that is in this pile is like a disagreement or a fight or something that the two of you had.
Yeah.
What were you fighting over, do you think?
I mean, I think I was fighting about the fact that that they're in the dream, right? I think maybe I was like, you should come visit me because I always have to visit you. And they're like, I literally can't do that.
Yep. Classic long distance relationship problems. Great. Love it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you leave them. Do you take care to put everything back where you found it, or
No.
are you kind of sloppy about it? Yeah?
I'm sloppy. Yeah.
All right. Well, they'll definitely know about that later. Cool.
You rifled through their dream without abandon. You're like, nah, here.
These things weren't in a place for a reason. It's fine.
Other people clean up after me. Why would I need to know?
Spec, please. I was just weeping for you.
Yeah, who wants to go next?
Nose goes.
I mean, I kind of have to because I'm the one that gets 3 of them, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to go twice. So
Yeah, so might as well just like break it up. Oh gosh, but what do I want to do? Alright, so maybe... Well, like the Dreamland doesn't really help me that much yet because I don't...
you can still go there and travel around in it. You just don't have like cool avatar powers the way the other folks do.
Yeah.
But it's definitely still something you're very familiar with and like integrated into. You are the oracle of the dream, after all.
Yeah, I'll save my dream travel for my last action, my downtime action. I think for this one, I even take notes. I don't think I took notes. Cool, thanks, Morgan. Thanks, past me. So last time I just did some research. Should I talk to Gran? Should I talk
Do
to Nan
you
about
wanna?
Yeah, what kind of conversation is that? And then we can talk about like how we want to frame that within the downtime actions. Because
Yeah, I think maybe make her aware that she needs to be more careful.
right, so you're
even-
trying to get her to like have better internet
Yeah.
security and like privacy practices.
Man, I told you about the VPN like a while ago. Weren't using it. But I don't know, cause like when we left it off, I think what Soul said kind of resonated with her Laurel bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first Laurel was like, no, you know, No, she's fine, and now like it's starting to sink in. Like, oh,
Yeah, like the next day you're at work and you
Yeah.
just can't stop thinking about it, kind of thing. Yeah.
like she didn't sleep at all last night. Like, yeah. So I think I want to do that just to have a good old conversation with Nan and see
Cool.
how things are going.
Yeah, I think it would make sense for this to be like a long-term project of like trying to get her to be safer and better at hiding her tracks when she's doing things that, because like the risk here would be about Faye getting ostracized from society, basically, which is really, really disastrous.
Yeah.
Particularly for someone who is older and vulnerable, and also who's all of her hobbies and stuff depend on, you know, being connected.
Yeah. Because if she doesn't, what is she gonna do? Knit? Nan doesn't knit.
Knitting's for grandmas that aren't
Nan
her.
slays noobs.
Yeah, different grandmas knit.
That's grandma's. That's not Nan. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think this isn't a super hard project. I think we'll call it a 6-count clock.
Okay.
Which I believe, yes, this is a 6. So I've just added it here on the side. And we'll call this get Faye to... Is it like be safe on the internet?
Cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity.
Fate. Nan's cybersecurity.
Cool. Yeah, and so are you just like talking to her about it straight up? Or is this like I leave a pamphlet or a note or like be like, oh, I saw this thing, I thought you should check it out? Are you more kind of circumspect in getting that information to her?
They're direct. I think Nan and Laurel have really good direct, open communication about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't talk about everything because, of course, Laurel didn't know about the dream journals in the first place and all that. But
so apparently there are some things that you just don't talk about if you're Faye.
You know what? If it's your dream journal, those are your own personal business. Like, it's like, so yeah, they don't talk. And like Nan never really asked about the movies. Like she's like, "Oh, you guys are watching another like off-rated, comedy or romance movie? That's great theories. Okay."
Yeah, probably a lot of the stuff y'all watch is like from Faye's youth or whatever, from back before like society was quite as messed up and sensorial. So yeah, but anyways. So you just like straight up have a conversation with her, very upfront and direct.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, great.
Pretty much, be like, "Hey Nan, so I work with technology, and so does Soul and Spec, and so you've got a good setup, right? You've got everything."
Yeah, and she's like very proud of it. She like looks over at her rig and is just like, "Oh, I picked everything very carefully, dear."
It's like a 3-monitor system with like one of those big old, what do you call it, towers that have like the lights.
The tower has the lights inside of it. Yeah, exactly. That's that kind of deal. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I mean, of course."
Yeah, but so if you do need help, if you have some issues with the technology itself, not like saying you will or you do,
Yeah, she kind of like narrows her eyes, resenting the implication.
Okay, so real talk, Nan. I love you to bits and pieces, and I don't want to see things happen to you.
Well, what would happen to me? Where? Like,
you know how Soul works security for our company?
Yeah, they help keep people safe. They're supposed to protect people, right? Seems like good work.
Yes.
I always thought Soul was very responsible.
Soul is extremely responsible, and they are fantastic, and I love them dearly. But their job isn't just about keeping people safe. It's also keeping an eye on certain people as well. Because our state of the And Laurel just gestures wildly.
To indicate everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
The higher ups like to keep eyes on people who are. I don't want to call it going rogue or being against the norm or like.
I think probably the like government word for this kind of thing is deviant behavior. We're back to like FBI in the 60s talking about people. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like if they get wind of people who have certain behaviors that are not suitable for our society, they start following them. And then if they get enough evidence, they'll strip you from society and outcast you.
And she kind of like scoffs. So there's like, no, you're being paranoid. Like it's.
Man,
I don't get up to anything I shouldn't, and so you have nothing to worry about.
Then why were you on Soul's list?
I'm sure it was just routine stuff. I mean, they look after everyone, right? So why not me? There's nothing to find. It's fine. All Soul will see is that I have moved up 3 ranks in such and such a league of this game in the past week, which I'm very proud of. Worked very hard for that.
No,
maybe I play my games a little too much, but they're not going to stop me for that.
No, I mean, yeah, and they saw that. They also saw your Dream Journal online account.
Yeah, and Faye just like clams up and goes cold very suddenly at the mention of that. And I think she just tries to like change the topic or go like do something else. She's just like, well, doesn't matter what they saw. I'm fine. I have things I need to do, and literally turns her back and like tries to go.
Yeah. At least if you're gonna do the things, let us help you get better security so people like Soul in that position can't be watching you anymore.
Yeah, and I think so. And like she has moved into another room, but is carrying on the conversation, kind of like shouting from the other room.
I want to help you.
And so she's just like, well. You tell Soul to keep out of my things, and like
it's their job, man.
And so yeah, I think you're definitely like chipping away at her, and she agrees to like sit down and go over some stuff with you.
And if anything, I'll get Soul over, and they can help us too. Hopefully, maybe.
Yeah, who better than a snitch to teach you how to avoid being snitched on?
Look at that face.
Cool. Well, do you want to do a roll for this?
Oh yeah. That's a good question. What kind of roll would this be? That's not my stuff. This is my stuff. Is it? Oh jeez. No. Express.
It could definitely be express. I think there's an angle for confess here as well around like the thing that really had impact there was you being like, I know about this thing I shouldn't, and I'm sorry. Like that angle matters.
I don't want to know about your life, but here we are.
Yeah.
I try to give you your space, but like, all right, so I'll do confess.
And that bundled in with that is also like how your character feels about this whole topic, which is really important too, right? Of like, I don't think you're safe. I think you need to do this thing. So yeah, I think confess would be great.
Standard, risky, controlled.
Yeah, it'll be standard effect, and the position you can just put as controlled. But we're in downtime. There will be no big consequences of this. Okay, great. So that'll move the clock 2 steps.
Yay! I taught the Nan.
So yeah, she is on the path. It's just going to take some more time and effort to kind of get her to, change her habits, etc. Mm-hmm. Very good grandchild, taking care of their naive grandparent.
I love her, and I don't want her to be taken away by the man,
Yeah, the consequences would be really, really bad if this were to blow up in her face, so.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Great. Jess, do you have anything in mind for Soul to do?
Yes, I think for my last downtime in this cycle, I would like to investigate the darkness. And in my case, the gathering information questions are very interesting. So I've been trying to figure out what kind of scene I'm thinking here.
Yeah, because as the time traveler, they breach time a little bit. Yeah.
Right. I think I want to frame the scene around asking the question, what defies the flow of time? So I'm trying to think, what sort of activity I could be doing to do that. And I'm not sure if that involves sitting in a dream.
That would definitely be one way to get at it. Because presumably in your own dream space, as someone who has, looped through or changed timelines a number of times, you have, a really complicated interior world, I expect, built
Hell
out of,
yeah.
all of these different ways that things could have happened and, trying to keep straight, which time you are in, which reality you are in is probably very difficult.
Which when? Yeah, I think I'd like to kind of flesh out what that looks like then.
Yeah, so what does Soul's dream look like? What is your personal dream space about?
A defining feature in this space is a lot of fractured wall space, and with each angle of a wall, there are many stained glass windows. So most spaces, they're like, hey, here's a puddle, here's a regular screen. And I'm like, nah, here are lots of intricate pictures via stained glass to look at and maybe travel through. Some depict maybe alternate specs. Some might manifest what I could potentially transform into in alternate spaces. Yeah. One is just a very pretty, Yggdrasil style tree.
I love this metaphor of an image of a person or a place or a thing that's built up of all of these different fractured pieces, as if yeah. Very good. I'm into it. And so, yeah, what do you go looking for in here? Is there a particular spot in your dream that you kind of... Is there somewhere that is the center of this understanding of all the timelines and your,
I think it's kind of a one-way sort of maze. So it's kind of windy, but it's not here are a bunch of dead ends to get lost in. I think I just tend to walk the path and travel along it, grazing my hands against these images, and when you get to the center, there's just a small fountain and a bench to sit at, and I kind of look at the reflection there and think about this specific timeline. Maybe I think if I travel, the other timelines are much hazier, and it takes some resonating with this timeline before I can remember more details with the old ones. So yeah, I'm just trying to kind of connect
everything converges here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And you wanted to ask what defies the flow of time.
Right.
Yeah. So go ahead and roll. So whatever action you think you're doing here, and I will start by answering that question.
My guess is this is more of a perceive situation.
So surface level information.
Because
the idea with perceive is you see the world as it presents itself without judgment.
Okay.
But if you're trying to pick away at details kind of under the surface, then we'd be talking about analyze, I think.
Okay, then yes, I'm thinking more analyze for sure on that. I just roll that. Don't worry about the position.
Mhm. Standard effect.
Standard. Boop, boop. 2.
All right. So what here defies the flow of time? So you're staring into this fountain, and there's a pool of water that the moving water falls into, with ripples and all these other kinds of disturbances, and you kind of start to like zone out a little bit staring at this, and each ripple carries with it images from a different, like from one of your pasts that you've led. Or from pasts that you've never lived, but that you know could have been yours. There's like some weirdness around like the potential times, and we see like, since you are not from this timeline, right, like the one that we're in now,
Right.
you
This
see
is my native state.
as if looking at someone else's, the movie of someone else's life, right? There's the you of this timeline living out their childhood, and you see like experiences between Sol and Laurel that you don't remember personally, but that existed here. And there's lots of like keeping those things straight in your head of like, well, what did I say in this timeline when we were kids back on the playground, whatever. It's like, yeah, so I think we get this glimpse of like how complicated and heavy Sol's experience of time is, and how difficult it is to like live with that. And then from this you start like spiraling then back out, right? There's the turn in and then back out. We catch a brief glimpse of Speck doing what he was doing in the scene we just described. You like see him in Plana's dream briefly. You get a quick flash of Laurel like tossing and turning, unable to sleep. And so the cheeky answer I could give you here is you are the thing that defies the flow of time.
Sure.
But I think it goes deeper than that, and you get this impression that this thing that you do where you trade out timelines and move around is not inherent to you. It's something that other forces are kind of enabling or permitting you to do, that if we use the fountain as a metaphor, right, like you're the water but something else is pushing you through the fountain, and that this other force, you kind of know just intuitively in this moment that it is this like conspiracy, that there's something to do with Plena and the people that Speck was running with, like all of these people, they are somehow churning the water, and that if they weren't there, everything would be still and stable. So definitely that.
Interesting. Oh, my little beans.
And that on this side of the dream, Plena, who you kind of know about and have some notion of who this person is, Plena is still participating in that here, whether wittingly or otherwise, that they are part of that mechanism that is disturbing the flow of time.
Okay.
And I think you get this intuition from like seeing things in the fountain and the ways, like the order of the images. It's that thing in a movie where they cut from one thing to another and you would just naturally associate those two ideas. The same thing is happening here with each wave of these things. It's all connected.
I feel like I'm in a Wes Anderson film right now.
And that's how you know that you're truly fucked. Because you're in a Wes Anderson film.
Interesting. Okay. Very cool.
And then you can ask me a follow-up question or a clarifying question, using your list or not. If there's something specific you want to get at, either is fine.
Okay. think I want to ask off the list.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure I know. Yes. Okay. No, we'll start with the easy one. What do I remember about Spec?
So, yeah, like Spec used to be involved in this kind of cultish art collective. What kind of stuff did you do back when you were cool, Spec?
I think I was very interested in kind of the construction of self that happens with social media. So that was kind of a natural interest with the work that I did. And the art that I did was kind of started as alternate constructions of myself, but then also became alternate constructions of other people and imagined peoples.
So, like, social media or collage portraits of people and, like, alternate selves and...
Yeah, and I think some of it was just, like, very creative, whatever, but I think that there were also parts of it where I felt like I could create people in the image that I wanted them to be.
There is a sweet sense of irony in that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so like in remembering Spec's work, there is, I think, probably a... I'm not going to speak for you, but do you think there's like a connection there with Sol of like the two of you are doing the same thing in different ways?
Yeah, upon like especially after seeing the art installation and reflecting on that, I'm like, fuck. I'm trying to influence Spec's fate so hard, and they are powering through and trying to control it themselves. And he is just in this moment of reflection. It feels like Soul feels that Spec is so incredibly like strong-willed and powerful. It's not often that people have significant changes when I'm going through the timelines. They kind of just shift minorly, but it's like seeing this Spec and seeing this Spec's past. It's obvious that this is different.
Yeah, Spec is like maybe part of what intrigues or why you're focused on Spec is that his fate is like highly divergent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that idea. One little twisting of the knife I'll add is you remember like, we'll call them a portrait for lack of a better word, that Spec did of Plana, and I think you just know that it's Spec's fault that Plana lives in the dream now. That's something about making that portrait, that like projected ideal, pushed Plana in a particular direction, in a way that Spec could never see, but you, with your kind of broader lens on fate and the events that have occurred, you can see when that very powerful line of Spec kind of slipstreamed Plana's fate in this other direction.
Ooh, spicy. I dig it.
So
I love
just
it.
some hot gossip for you.
Do you feel like Plana knows, like, has that clear connection?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think either you or Plana. It's if it's that close, right, to yourself, how can you ever really see it when that kind of thing is happening? Like, if I look back on my life, I have trouble picking apart like how much of such and such decision was me versus the people around me wanting me to do something. Or so I think in that way, Plana wouldn't be able to say that was the case, but
yeah, not enough objective like reflection on that. Interesting.
Well, that was a nice
I'm gonna chew on that one.
dream. Yeah. I guess we're back to Laurel.
Yep. shoot. Okay. I don't. Do I know of any of this like dreams? I probably do know some of this dream stuff that's happening. What am I saying?
Yeah, so you've I think it's fair to say that like the three of you have traveled in dreams together already before. That's kind of established. Some of the way I like to talk about it when playing this game is like, cool, we're playing. If we imagine that we're in like a TV series or whatever, there's like a first season of this show that has already happened, where we got to do all of the kind of like everyone meeting each other, getting to know each other, learning, discovering their power, etc. That all has happened in the past, and we can reference back to it. But we can assume that a lot of that kind of perfunctory story stuff is out of the way. That the characters kind of know what's up, and that we're in season 2 where the stuff is really happening. And so in that way, yeah, like Laurel doesn't have an avatar that manifests, but you are familiar with all the stuff that's going on. You're as involved and like in it as everyone else is.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? I'm gonna try to follow the sunflowers.
Great. Because yeah, like in your research, that was like a recurring theme in all these people's dreams, right? And so you want to go and like find that in the dream.
Find that clue and just go down, follow the old brick road of sunflowers.
Great. So one thing I didn't do, sorry, for the last roll, because you were investigating as well, right? I just need to add 2 more points. And then, Morgan, would you say that this is you investigating the darkness as well?
Yes. I forgot where those points go.
I've checked it off on the list. I'll just bring y'all back to the right page. Sorry, I always forget about that. Right. So in the top right corner of this sheet is the investigation track, which is at 7 out of 10 for the second tier, which if y'all fill that out, then that'll help your engagement roll significantly when we go into someone's dream, which is like the next thing that we're going to do.
Yeah, I'm going to investigate the darkness.
Cool. And so you're doing this by wandering in the dream and finding sunflowers and like...
Pretty much. I'm just going to follow the trail and see where it leads me.
It's great. I really like that as an approach, because you have a couple of starting points that you know about in terms of like, you know that Faye's dream has this in it. So you could start with your grandma and then like work out from there, or is that like...
go into her dream and like... I think that's her space.
But so you don't want to transgress in that way, but you can also just wander kind of aimlessly, and you know that you'll bump into them sooner or later because they're I think
I'm just gonna try to just look for them, like start in a general area, because I was like, okay, I saw this person that's not Nan mention it. Let me try to find, because it's not personal. I don't mind going into their stuff.
Yeah, because it's not Nan's as close to home.
It's too close to home. I don't want to touch her dream. So.
You're so much more considerate than Spec.
Spec was just like, I know of a person who I'm gonna... Yeah.
I ain't playing it back. It's fine where it is. Yeah, I think she's gonna find some Joe Schmo that she remembered reading about, and go into their dream, and then eventually try to find sunflower from there.
Great. So I think we get like a little montage of you like wandering around, and they're all these very, very different, actually not so different vistas. Most people's dreams, we've already established, are really samey and are kind of defined by these same few things that we established in the first session. Right, because surveillance and conformity shape our dreams. So I think like most people's dreams are about like what was on TV the afternoon before they slept and shit like that, or about like working in offices. Like so many of these mind spaces that you walk into are people having like cubicle stress dreams and stuff, or like, you know, like they're back in high school or whatever. They're these like deeply, deeply, deeply familiar scenes where some of them are populated, like everyone's populating their dream with all the same kind of fictional character stand-ins for actual people in their lives. It's very bleak in a way. Everything's pretty generic. But every now and then I think you come into one of these, and just like in the background of some scene, there is a sunflower either like in a little pot in someone's 10th grade biology class or whatever, right? You start like seeing these, and then you can't stop seeing them. They keep showing up and showing up and showing up with greater frequency as you zero in on this. Cool. Do you want to
give you a roll?
Give me a roll, and then we can start doing some back and forth.
Yeah. Would that be perceive or analyze? Maybe perceive because I'm just looking, right?
Yeah, I think for you, it makes sense that this is perceived. You don't have some suspicion that you're confirming. You're just you're just kind of following your nose here, right?
Yeah. I was like, maybe I'll just run into something. We'll see. We'll see what's connecting everybody. Controlled, standard. Oh, hey. Another 5.
Okay, great. So, it's another 3 points on this thing, which gets us up to fills up the next tier, which is good. So I'll just mark that now. And yeah, why don't you ask me one of your gather info questions, and I will fill in some more details.
Questions. That's a good question. Find that. Gather info. Oh, here we go. Where can I find beauty here? I mean, I'm seeing beauty with the sunflowers themselves, but is there more of I don't know if that's really relating to the question.
No, yeah. It is my job to answer this question no matter what.
Yes.
To find a way that beauty exists in this space. But I think with this, it doesn't feel difficult at all for me to answer that one. I think as there's a direct correlation between sunflower density in people's dreams and how cool their dreams are. So as you're following this trail, the dreams start being more and more there are brighter colors, there's more interesting stuff going on, that these people who are sharing in this collective thing, whatever it is, have these very beautiful interior worlds. And I think there's a specific one that you come to that is particularly that stands out. Yeah, why not? Let's just do this. So you are walking around, and eventually, in this very dream logic way, the sunflowers kind of start to take over your dream. And at first you're going through places and it's very clear that you're searching, and then you kind of get lost at some point. And you find yourself just in a field of sunflowers that are
it's like a corn maze, but it's sunflowers.
Yeah, they're taller than you. They're all these sunflowers, and they're all the day-night cycle is happening really quickly, and so they're all doing this. They're all yo-yoing back and forth, very rhythmically, and it's a little bit hypnotic and disorienting. And then there's
stared for a little too much longer than I needed to, but.
And then there's a hand on your shoulder, and you turn. And have you ever met Plena Luce before?
I don't think I have.
I don't remember us establishing that as a thing prior.
I don't think I have.
Jory, you're welcome to chime in with any thoughts on this, but.
I don't feel strongly either way, especially because theoretically these two don't know that I am also Ross's slate.
Yep.
But Plena does.
Plena knows your secret identity.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they're very protective of your secrets, even if you're dismissive of theirs. So.
I hope so.
So yeah, there's this hand on your shoulder, and so there is this person. What does Plena look like, Jory? Why don't you tell us? Because I don't want to. I don't know, it would feel weird for me to describe this person that you're like, this is the person my character loves, and I'm like, they are bad in a way that you don't like, and then you're like, oh, that doesn't work for me. So I don't want to create a weird disconnect for you.
Yeah, I feel like so because Plana has transcended into Dream World, Plana can look whatever, and I imagine Plana as like a unicorn, like a literal
Yeah.
unicorn. And I think that probably they have the ability to kind of shapeshift into a more human form when that is convenient. So hard for a unicorn to, I don't know, write in a journal, but Plana can do that when they want to.
So slight rewind. It's not a hand on your shoulder. It's something like biting your shirt. It's a horse just like grabbing your shirt and like tugging on you, and you turn, and like, you know, we see the horn of this unicorn, and you turn and there's a fucking unicorn in front of you.
Oh. Hello, friend.
And there's this thing happening right where the light is constantly moving over, so there's shadows on its face are like shifting. And the unicorn can speak, because why not? And so they say, I think you've wandered a little too far.
Where am I?
And they like look around. They join you in kind of looking around. I think I made this space, but it's not mine anymore either.
You think you made it?
And they like, yeah, there's like a long sigh with like a little bit of that horsey like to it. And they say, well, it all gets fuzzy here. If I make something and others claim it, is it still mine? Did I really make it? If I didn't make it what it is now? And they're kind of like they muse this way for like a minute, and then like remember you're there and like snap back to attention and just say, but I'm going on. Too much. People come here regularly, and they don't let anyone be here unless they are part of their group. And if you're here, then they'll insist.
And what group is that?
Jory, what's the name of your cool art collective that you were a part of?
Of the Cabal. I could use some help for this one.
Or yeah, if anyone has a good idea for it.
Did we write it down? Did Jerry make it, or did we not?
I don't think we ever gave it a name.
What is a good artsy fartsy slightly maniacal name?
Yeah, the notes I have is that they value personal expression and idealism, and that they have creative acts that breach reality.
I have nothing.
I mean, I'm happy to just call it like breach or something like that, as just like the default thing that comes to mind.
I think I have it.
Yep.
I think we were the designers of destiny.
There you go.
Cool. Designers of Destiny. And so, yeah, Plana just says they call themselves the Designers of Destiny. I guess we did. And they, like, sigh again in that particular way. But anyways, if you're here when they show up, you have to be a part of their group.
I mean, have to is a very strong word.
I don't know how a unicorn can shrug, but maybe there's like a head tilt. They're very persuasive when they want to be.
Well, I am very headstrong when I need to be, so...
This is why I'm giving you a chance. I don't know if you're here for a fight.
I'm not. I was just curious to see what was... I was doing some research, and I heard there was a lot of sunflowers in people's dreams, and I was just curious where the rabbit hole went.
Well, you found it here at the
I
bottom.
did. It's pretty. I like it.
Well, the less I know about you, the better, little Alice. So, why don't you climb back up out of the rabbit hole? And you're more than welcome to ask me follow-up gather info questions from your list. I can use Plana to deliver that information or other description. So if anything occurs to you that you want to know in this moment.
Yeah, let me read the list real quick. Sorry, I don't know if my roommates are loud or not. You're hearing them.
I could like just barely hear something, but it's all good.
They're loud.
As long as they're not yelling their social security number and your address, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with I'm gonna assume most dangerous here is the designers of Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I won't ask that one. I think I'm gonna ask who here is feeling who here is strong?
I think you get the impression that Plena is very strong, especially here, but that they are like holding back. I think maybe too, like, because we haven't shown this kind of like Oracle of the Dream thing quite yet, but if you like touch the side of this unicorn or whatever at any point, you get this flash of the sense of like how they fit into this space. You get this idea of like Plena is rooted here very, very deeply, and that this whole space kind of depends on them in some fundamental way. But that this isn't their dream, it's some other thing. Probably, I don't think you've ever felt a place like this before. Because every dream you've been to has belonged to someone, and this one doesn't. It doesn't belong to anyone.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, Plena is like a pillar of it. That they are like very, very important and powerful here. Which then makes it feel really weird that they're acting kind of scared, and that their body language is suggesting that they're like uncomfortable here. And they try to like tug you and like lead you away.
Yeah, I think whenever they tug me again, I get that flash.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's a good moment
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, and it's like really incongruous that on the one hand, you can tell that Plena is very strong, but that they are acting scared.
Cool, and I think that makes Laurel pause for a hot second. Look at Plana, sort of just like tilt her own head a bit. Blink again. Shake her head, and she's like, oh, "All right, I'm leaving. Okay, can you tell me how to?" There's not a path out. There's not a sign.
No, and like you have no recollection of how you ended up here in that very like dream logic-y kind of way. But Plena just says, "Oh, follow me. I'll take you," and like wanders in a direction. You just walk through more sunflowers. There's nothing else here. It's just like a huge flat plain with sunflowers on it. Maybe some like rolling hills. But Plena just like talks the whole time in this very meandery stream of consciousness kind of way that like again has this slightly hypnotic note quality to it, and after a certain point you like come back to awareness and you're somewhere else, maybe back in that cave that we've described previously as being Plena's like place.
Okay.
And Plena is a bit more humanoid here, still has a little like horn in their head, and is like dressed in white or whatever, like is more metaphorically a unicorn than literally a unicorn. And they're like making tea or something. They're like serving you tea as you kind of come back to awareness. And the tea smells good. And that's kind of what like snaps you back. And there's like a vase of sunflowers in the corner and they're all pointed at you. And we can just kind of like cut the scene there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, well, the next thing we're going to want to do is travel to someone's dream and confront them about their involvement in the conspiracy. There are a number of people whose dream it could be, but I would love to take a break here, and then we can kind of do the first little bit of that. I don't think we'll get through the whole dream traveling bit today, but we can at least get it started. But yeah, we'll take like a 10-minute break and then come back.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll be back, folks. Hang tight.